it's interesting that you talk about, the work that needs to be done, a lot more work that needs to be done, and also to challenge some of these, unstated biases and certain viewpoints that I think have been sederated for too long. But you also mentioned 9/11, so we have to get to this topic, of course. You and I both work on the history and society of itself. And yet we're doing this work, and as you know, our academic environment is also impacted upon by geopolitical realities. Post 9/11, we are back to essentialism. Post 9/11, again, earlier you talk about how at one point there was a complete disregard for culture. Everything was just built for economy. But it seems to me, at least, post 9/11, in some parts, especially of Western scholarship, there was a tendency to go to the other extreme. So culture and religion explains everything. And that, I think, made it very difficult for a lot of academics to do objective, serious research on Muslim societies where we take Islam seriously. Because there was a tendency, particularly in the international media at the time, to explain everything through only religion. So if something horrible happens, there's a bomb attack, it's because of religion. If there's a hijacking, it's because of religion. If there's a terrorist attack, it's because of religion. And I think until today, we are still living in a post 9/11 world. Some of these biases, one thing that concerns me on Milok is how Islamic studies accepted Muslim societies has become so securitized. Because a lot of people who are very interested in the kind of work that you do, are also interested in the security industry, about national security and things like that. What's our role? What's our role, as academics? Or basically try to say, look, there is this thing, it's called the Muslim world society, understand it, take it seriously, but approach it with intelligence. And how do we do that? How can we do that with, our competitors are not other academics. Our competitors are social media, disinformation, popular entertainment, propaganda. How can we academics play a positive role in getting people to study and understand human societies objectively?
Yeah, I would say something maybe to start with the defense of the university in a sense, because you're right. That perception has been dominant in the media. It has driven policies. That essentialist perception has driven policies. Or let's put it the other way around. Maybe those policies were pre-planned, just looking for some justification, and they would find it there. So it's always difficult to know if again, governments have decided on certain policy and they just need justification for it, and they will seek where they can elements of justification. But I think most of academia has continued to do its work pretty well, right? I can see there's been challenges, and when it comes to this kind of security perspective that Imando, this kind of security prism, it's true that the question of funding has been one, because you have all these big projects which universities are asking researchers more and more to be part of, because you need to bring money to the university, and many of these projects which are designed by national, or in this case European or American research agency with a clear political agenda, they tend to have a very security-oriented perspective, because they believe that this is what the government needs, right? It's all, so the deep understanding of Muslim societies is out of the question. I remember some of you here might know that because you use the connection to the Netherlands. But when I was doing my PhD, there was this fantastic center in the university library called ISIM, the Institute for the Study of Islam in the Modern World, right? Which was clearly, again, doing kind of what we're talking about here. It was looking at Muslim societies and studying them. as through this kind of mixed approach and taking religion seriously, we're also doing real sociological and anthropological work, supporting that kind of studies. And then at some point, I forgot which government in the Netherlands decided that, we don't want to give money to these people anymore because this is useless. And I remember...
Like useless for that.
Useless for that. Yeah, useless for that. And I remember that the justification that was given is, but we need the money because we need to fund some kind of, security-oriented think tank that's going to do much more useful work. So it is true, but at the same time, I feel that most academics have, tried hard. There is a faction of academics that has clearly ridden that wave, and they've been making heavy features by the media because the narrative kind of matches
Fox News.
Or Fox News, it matches certain expectations of the media, but I think like a lot of my academic colleagues, despite everything, and I think what's kind of vindicating us, is, in a way, is the amount of attacks the universities are getting these days by populist parties in the West. Because in a sense, if these parties are attacking us, it means that we've done something right. They see the university as proper precisely because the university continued to try to do this work in these kind of very social science, nuanced, balanced, objective terms, and most of it didn't fall for the more essentialistic approaches that were dominant elsewhere. So yeah, it's been a challenge. But again, and I might be a bit naive, but I want to believe that the universities are still a place where we can produce that kind of knowledge. The question is how do we compete with other narratives, right? How do you compete on Twitter? Right? It's a lost battle from the beginning. But Bourdieu said this a very long time ago. Bourdieu has this fantastic book on television in the 90s, and revealed. Basically says the problem with television is not what's said, it's the format. Like I always say, when the media wants to talk to me, I always say, okay, but I need time. Like I always say, I cannot pretend that I will convince people that everything is easy. What I can do is tell them it's difficult, but convince them that it's interesting to make the effort to understand something difficult because it's different, right? And so, of course, the persons who will just, tell them everything is easy, black and white, you guys like that, that's it. This is all you need to know. You can do this in a tweet. I can't do this in a tweet. So that would make me, not go to the media most of the time. Or if it's an hour, I would say, okay, it's an hour, that's good. I have time to actually, again, explain what is complex. And again, the only thing I can do, and that's my limit, and I don't think we have better ways, the only thing I can do is to convince people that it is useful to spend time understanding complexity. To try to communicate my enthusiasm, trying to understand complexity. I cannot lie to them and tell them it's easy. Because it's different. Because you need to put yourself in the shoes of someone else. Because the world's so COVID, where everyone doesn't think the same way, and you have to understand why.
My concern about that is, it seems, and I'm not sure that this is a new trend. I think it's always been there, but I think it's saturated today, thanks to the kind of communicative technologies that we have. But I think it's something that, as academics, we value complexity, right? But not everyone does. And I think a lot of people don't want complexity together. So and you don't need more complexity. And my concern, we live in a world now where we know that attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. And we know as academics, students are less and less likely to read a book from the first page to the last page. Everyone just reads a summary on Google or Wikipedia and what have you. And that's all because beating against, and I've always said that the biggest threat to academia is not repression, but those cat videos or TikTok, which are far more powerful. Because between watching us speak and watching cat videos, cute kittens, I think most people would choose cute kittens. You and I are not cute enough. We cannot buy you the kitchen way. So these kittens...
Especially we use tea love cats so much, yeah. We divide.
We divide, and we can't find the kittens. Right? So this places enormous challenges people us, and so you become like Nietzsche's Batman, who now knows the truth, but then doesn't know how to communicate or cannot communicate because people don't want to hear the truth, right? So you're trying to say, look, there's this thing. It's not a thing. It's a complexity that you call the Muslim world. These are human beings. They have agency. They have rationality. But when you have a me here, because it's to just bomb and kill all of them, and that's the solution to all your problems, and that will give you back your job, and that will, increase productivity or what have you. That sadly, I suppose this goes all the way back to the 30s with the rise of fascism. We've seen this before. We've seen this before. Now, in the context of that, of course, there's our dilemma as individual academics. But let's bring it back here to UIII. UIII is, for me, a unique initiative. It's an attempt on part of Indonesia to showcase to the world that there is, as you say, a long tradition, an old, a deep tradition of intellectual work in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia. It's a South university. It's the University of the South, of the global South, trying to internationalize itself. And of course, this comes at a time when there's enormous competition among universities worldwide. Now, you've been here in Indonesia for a year. You've been at UIII for a year. What do you see as the potential of UIII, and what can it do? What should it do, in your opinion?
And so that's a difficult question. I think the project is as you said, it is a very promising project, because I think it's unique. This is a university that, again, like what we say before, takes both religion and social science seriously. And social science in the broadest form, students here read all the major social science works in the West, and so UIII tries to merge those two traditions into one, and does it in a way that doesn't exist anywhere else. I cannot think of any similar initiative in another place. So, and this is very important. This is also because I think, again, as you said, Indonesia has a long intellectual tradition, in special on the topic of Islam. Applying social science approach to Islam has been something Indonesian thinkers have been doing for decades. So there is a long tradition of that, which might be, I might be fantasizing here, but I think it's also going back again to that question of culture and religion. That is, I think Indonesian Muslim thinkers, in the end, they have to account for the fact that they're Muslims and something else. And in a way, social science might be a place where they can find answers to how to reconcile those two sides of themselves, right? And that probably is why very early on, since the 70s, you've had Indonesian thinkers getting heavily wrapped in the social sciences, with people going to study abroad and coming back to produce works about Islam that, already merge these two approaches. So this is something that has a long tradition in Indonesia. But what can it do then? I guess, this is taking place in a world where, that kind of complexity is being challenged everywhere. This is happening in a world where, academic funding is not what it was. So, if it was my decision, I would say give a much bigger budget, but it's not my decision, and there are the constraints that are out of my reach, obviously. So, but of course, I think it's a great initiative that should continue. I just don't have an easy solution. Again, many of these problems that we're facing today, this is the paradox of this world, is that there's a lot of terrible things happening, and then there's wonderful initiatives everywhere. And those wonderful initiatives, I don't know if they will be able to fight against the global tide of denying complexity, silencing diversity, etc., etc. But there are those wonderful initiatives happening everywhere, and I think this is what's quite promising in a way. I mean, at least this can give us some kind of consolation. But yeah, it's if I had easy recipes, I think I would, yeah. Oh, cabbage shadow guts.
Maybe then to push you one step further, what do you think a university like UIII, as a university from the South, should not do? What should it avoid? And we know the long history of institutional mistakes and institutional failures. All universities worldwide, but is they're going to keep to this mission of trying to show that you can actually study both human phenomena and religion seriously through the lens of social sciences. I mean, what other things that you think we should have got?
Might person picking.
I mean, we already know about the inherited biases that had also a lot were Aprilia. But in a sense, dictate we like the study of civilization societies. I mean, these are institutional mistakes of the past. But we are moving into an age where teaching itself is going to change, thanks to ChatGPT, AI, social media, and all that. And my concern is whether you look at many countries in the South, the ease with which we embrace all these new technologies without maybe thinking twice to maybe these new technologies are double-edged. Maybe we can be slightly cautious. I mean, I have my own idea about what problems may lie ahead. But from your point of view, what do you think?
Yeah. Those are things I hadn't probably think about it. So I thought about it now. I would say that obviously there's new technologies. Indonesia is in many ways much more or Indonesians, and put it that way, are much more technologically savvy than many Europeans, and maybe that's a good thing. Right? There's a demand for all these technological innovations here. But yeah, it's a challenge for us. I haven't in my own classes. I wasn't teaching this year, so I'm a bit intimidated to come back because this is the year when ChatGPT has become everybody. Right? So last year I didn't really have to worry about ChatGPT when I was teaching because it was still the beginning. I assume maybe some students were already using it, but either I was unaware, and probably many of them were not yet aware. I think now it's been years past, and to come back, I'll teach in January. In my university, I will need to think about that. I will need to think about what to do with that. And I think we should embed it, obviously. But at the same time, we want students who are able to think. I mean, and to think first is to learn. That is not rely on technology only. That is how to balance the necessity to acquire, to memorize, basically, put it that way, right? A lot of things which you need to be within you, because this is how new ideas are produced. Otherwise, you're just going to ask ChatGPT to produce the ideas. Exactly. So you need to be able to distinguish the kind of knowledge that still needs to be taught the traditional way, and that still needs to be interiorized by the students, and the one that that can be delegated to ChatGPT. There's a lot of tasks that we do, that students do, that are actually a loss of time. So I don't think anyone at this point has a clear idea. But I'm always I'm very skeptical of all this, but I still want to believe that that there will be a way, there might be a way that this technology could be used in a useful way. But it needs to be, there needs to be boundaries. So this is something where global South universities like UIII, might have an edge. You're very technology savvy students who they might be the ones who this is one thing probably in which you could think about this and think of ways of using this that would you could do this in a more efficient and faster way than this big Western institution. I think in Sciences Po, we already had a policy on this, and I'm not sure when it'll happen because everyone disagrees, and most of the professors they want to pretend it doesn't exist. I'll see how it is next year. For the moment, everyone is like pretending this doesn't exist. So there's something more dynamic here that could be an advantage in trying to think of the education of the future. But again, that requires a reflection that is really out of my expertise.
We were talking about future, and I know in with this question, do you see yourself coming back to Indonesia anytime in the future?
I would love to come back to Indonesia in the future. Obviously, I see this year as an introduction. I see this year as a year in which I've learned the Indonesian language to a reasonable extent. I can read now, I can have conversations. I've gotten to know more about Indonesia on its own terms. I'm trying to get not to come with my Western or Arab biases and just impose them on Indonesia. But I've really, very candidly tried to just, absorb as much as I can of what Indonesian society has to offer, right? And try to understand how to think about Indonesia on its own terms. So, at the same after having done all of that, this is only the beginning of a journey in many ways, and one that hopefully will lead me to at some point produce work on Indonesia, but also hopefully comparative work where I can integrate Indonesia to my kind of broader reflections. So that's what I hope to be doing. If I hope there will be many opportunities, and I hope to be here soon again.
Okay. Well, on that happy note, instead of saying goodbye, we'll just say hope to see you again soon. Further.
Thank you very much. Yeah, see you again soon.
And thank you for joining us. See you soon.